What would I do with my life if I had unlimited income? Let's say for I don't know, every week I got $1,000 and there were no stipulations. It was just you're receiving $1,000 every week for the rest of your life. What would I do? Well, I don't really know. I probably wouldn't do anything specifically. I would do whatever came to mind. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that I would probably do is travel. Of course, everybody wants to travel. Everybody thinks of traveling. But where would I go? I don't know. I would do it whenever. I might even work. That's the thing. It wouldn't be one of those, well, I'd retire and I'd go do this thing for the rest of my life. I don't have my life planned out. I never have. It's never been one of those things for me where I get to know what it is I want to do in the future. It's a bunch of knowns. Well, mostly it's mostly known unknowns, if you will. It's that I know, but I don't know what they are. I know that at that point I wouldn't worry about food or shelter. I would pretty much be able to rent whatever I felt like. I'd be able to rent pretty much anywhere in the United States. Within reason, of course. I mean, I can't go to San Francisco. I could probably even rent somewhere it wouldn't even be renting at this point, but if I could go to pretty much any other country in the world, if I had $56,000 a year to spend however I felt like, I would do whatever I felt like at that time. Well, let's see. Some of the things that I think about on a regular basis. I don't really think about them as much as I used to. Not so much like when I was homeless. When I was homeless, it was strange. I would think of all sorts of stuff. I've even got some in my phone, and I've got some written on Google Docs. Like, okay, I'm sure people have played Minecraft. For those who haven't, a quick rundown. It's a single-player game that has multiplayer components to it. You are inserted into a world that's full of blocks. These blocks you can destroy, some of which you can never replace if you destroy them, depending on the tool that you're using to destroy. However, if you're using the right tool, then you can replace it by just placing it back down. It's basically virtual or digital Legos for the most part, to simplify it. There are no other people, although there have been recent additions, I say recent in the last few years, of non-player characters, NPCs. They don't look exactly like your character. And you can't really interact with them too much that I'm aware of. There may be more things that they have added to it since I started playing originally. And, well, you can basically just build whatever you want by destroying the world. And this place is massive. Apparently, per the internet, the size of a single Minecraft world is roughly the size of Neptune, the planet, which is just unfathomably massive if you give it. Now, I don't know if that's to scale or if that's like the actual considered size. But now, add to the idea of Minecraft where you can sort of take stuff and put it elsewhere and whatnot. And then look at something like Google Maps. All right, now kind of let those sit there for a little bit. During Hurricane Sandy, there's quite a lot of footage taken of the actual event. And just like any other event, there's a lot of footage that people put out there. Now, one of the things that I've always wanted, and I'm certain it's actually going to happen at some point, it won't come in the form that I'm thinking of because I'm thinking more in a dramatic video game slash movie style, but it comes in a format whereby the data on your phone, all the metadata, the location where you're at, the orientation of your phone, which direction it's pointing, how far, its elevation, all that location-based data. If, let's say, you uploaded it to some sort of Google Hive Mind thing, call it Google History, I suppose, right? Anytime that you upload something, and you decide to upload it to this Google service, Google's computers, their algorithms, whatever they've got going on to help them compute all of this information, basically compiles, curates, and organizes all of this information. And so basically, let's say a big major event occurs in America. Let's just say, for the sake of example, another sort of 9/11 incident occurs. And people are recording it everywhere with their phones, and somehow or another, various databases are recording all this information, and it's somehow compiled into this Google History thing. People are streaming on Ustream and recording and uploading to YouTube or to Twitter or whatever. And let's say all of this information is being shared to this one hub. Now, obviously, with current day considerations for things like spying and NSA, this obviously wouldn't go too well right now. But I could see it happening. Just because times change and people change. New generations come in, they want something different, they want something new. They have a different idea of what safety and security is. I mean, to this day and age, we let people search our bags when we go to the airport, but I bet 50 years ago, that wasn't something that anybody would have allowed. I just get on the plane. Why would anybody want to search my bags? There's no reason for that. Now we have a problem with people searching our computers. Well, it's very possible that that could be a thing in the future. Will it? I don't know. But getting back to my idea. With all this compiled, let's say a big old event like this happens in a big city like New York City. People from all over are aiming at this area of the city from various distances, from various elevations, office buildings, etc. And all this data is effectively stitched together. I believe the term is interpolated, or otherwise pronounced, I'm not sure. I'm not certain. They take this data and they basically compile an interactive video. Now, maybe not all of the information is filled in, so maybe there's some gaps, just like Google Maps used to be. But then maybe more and more cameras and surveillance footage is becoming available over time. More access is provided. And any event becomes visible. Even the mundane. Or, something that's more fascinating. Maybe like the Oscars. Maybe the Oscars has a bunch of cameras everywhere. And hell, maybe it's live streamed from various angles, and this Google History thing allows you, while it's active, to be able to effectively sort of fly around and watch it occur as it's happening. There'd have to be different levels of security measures enforced, of course. I mean, I'm not thinking of every single contingency that's associated with it, because there's too many. But maybe, like one day, your kids or your grandkids or your great-grandkids are like, hey, what happened on this day? Or whatever. Where were you at? Or can you tell me about whatever these things, just kind of like, where were you on that day? Kind of like with me on 9/11, for instance. I was calling my parole officer, I'm sorry, not a parole, that's a totally different officer. I was calling my probation officer the phone line was busy, and I was listening to the news, and it was talking about how America was under attack and we were apparently at war, or that there was a declaration of war or something along those lines. Then call out to my grandmother because I was living with her at the time, and I said, "Hey, Grandma, turn on the TV," because we needed to see what was going on, and for whatever reason, I think it was like 8 in the morning, something like that, and maybe she just hadn't turned the TV on yet. She turned it on, and that TV was on all day long. That's what we did, was watch all the 9/11 footage. Like, at that point, everything had already been struck by the time that I had heard about it. Every plane had crashed, etc. But it was still one of those things that we just watched. And I could see that being a thing, but in a different capacity for the future. Where instead of watching, in a way, that's what it was. We were watching recorded footage. But we couldn't, let's say, watch the scene unfold. That would be a fascinating forensics piece of technology, to be able to watch something in a sort of 3-dimensional capacity. To interact, in a sense. Obviously not interact totally, but you could walk around town while it's happening. You could see how people were responding with all the various cell phone footages and what is it, and surveillance footage stitched together, compiled as one interactive medium, almost like a video game. But you're watching history unfold. And then you could even extend that. You could make a game out of it. You could take mundane days of the week and just create a scavenger hunt for things that existed at the time that it no longer exists now. Or add stuff virtually if you wanted to. You could make people travel the world and interact as if it were that day. Kind of like time travel.